Decorating Christmas cookies is the perfect Christmas tradition. We are going to help make it easy for you. You only need 7 ingredients for these cookies. Start by adding soft butter to a bowl. Next, add white sugar and mix together until it's incorporated. We're using beaters, but you can also do all the mixing for these cookies with a whisk. Now add an egg, some vanilla extract, and beat again. Don't even think of buying one of those sugar cookie decorating kits. There are so many ingredients that are bad for you in those. Add all-purpose flour, salt, and baking powder, and mix again until combined. With your hands, press all the dough together to form a ball. Press into a disc and wrap. You need to chill the dough in the fridge for at least an hour. After you remove it from the fridge, divide the dough in two. We do this because the dough needs to be cool when you work with it. It's easier to work with only half at a time, as otherwise it becomes too warm to work with. Sprinkle some flour on the counter and spread it around. Don't forget to put the other half in the fridge. Sprinkle a little flour on top of the dough and on your rolling pin. Roll, pressing lightly, and spread out the dough just a little. Then flip and do the other side. Keep adding flour to the dough so it doesn't stick to the counter. If you see any cracks, just fix them by pressing the dough back together. Roll the dough until it's about 1/8 of an inch thick. Guillermo is feeling if the thickness is the same all over the dough. Don't ask me how he knows. It's magic, I guess. Space the cookie cutters very close together to minimize how much dough is left over. Press hard on the cutter and give it a little wiggle. Add flour each time to prevent sticking. Fill the surface of the dough with cutouts, then gently remove the dough around the shapes. Guillermo is using a small spatula here, but you can also just use a knife. Keep the scraps of dough for your next round of cookies. Place the cutouts on a cookie sheet lined with parchment paper. They only need a little space between each other. Brush off any remaining flour. Bake the cookies for 10 to 12 minutes or until lightly golden at the bottom and the sides. While the cookies are baking, press your scraps together and make another disc to refrigerate. You only need to refrigerate this dough while the other cookies are baking. Look at those lovely cookies. They're going to be so delicious and lots of fun to decorate. Transfer the cookies to a wire rack to cool. Now for the next round. Take out a disc of dough and get rolling. We were able to make 60 cookies with the dough from this recipe. Of course, how many you end up with depends on the size of your cookies. Now we show you how to make royal icing. You only need 5 ingredients. Add 2 egg whites to a bowl. We're using beaters, but you can also do this by hand with a whisk. Mix until the egg white is foamy. It only takes about a minute with the beaters. Add lemon juice and half of the icing sugar. We have a video on how to make icing sugar if you happen to be out of it. We'll put the link in the description. Add salt and vanilla extract and beat again on low until well incorporated. If you don't have the time or ingredients for royal icing, we have an even simpler icing recipe with only 2 ingredients. We'll also put that link in the description. Add the rest of the icing sugar and mix again. We do it a half at a time so that the icing sugar doesn't fly out of the bowl. Mix well until the icing is thick, but not too thick. It needs to be a little bit fluid in order to do the decorating. If it becomes too thick, add a tiny bit of water at a time until you get this consistency. If you're not decorating right away, cover the icing. We're not experts, but this is how we do our cookie decorating. Dip the cookie into the icing to coat and scrape off the excess icing. Now poke any air bubbles with a toothpick and spread over any bare parts. Do this while the icing on the cookie is still liquid. It sets quickly. Let the icing dry for about 5 minutes before decorating on top of this initial layer. We'll make the next layer of icing thicker than the initial coating. To do this, we'll add more icing sugar. This is the icing we'll color and add to our piping bags. Mix until it thickens like this. Reserve some of the white and pour the rest into separate bowls to add the food coloring. We are using gel coloring, but liquid is also fine. We're going to use red, green, blue, and white. Decorating sugar cookies is a great way to bring people together before Christmas. You can give them as gifts, or you can even hang them on the tree. But if you have pets, don't do this. My dog ate the gingerbread cookies off our Christmas tree when I was a kid. He also knocked the tree over, but that's another story. You can buy these handy plastic piping bags if you don't have cloth ones. This is a good technique for filling the bags. Just fold them out to about halfway and stretch over a glass, like this. Just add the amount you think you'll use, then unwrap it and stretch it out. Clip off the end, leaving only a very tiny opening. Then scrape the icing down to the bottom. You can also use the back of a knife for this. To make sure the icing doesn't come out the back of the bag while you're decorating, squeeze, then twist, and fold the end between your fingers like this. Just squeeze out the icing and get creative. There are no rules. If you're using piping tips, be sure to use the one with the smallest opening, not the cake one. Guillermo is trying to make his cookies look very elegant, and he succeeded. But our daughter's cookies actually turned out prettier. If you find this video helpful, please help us by giving us a thumbs up and subscribing to our channel. If you liked this video, we think you'll like this one too.
Eeny, meeny, miny, moe. Catch a tiger by his toe.
They're really good. They're the best.